It's a Drama, coming to you from Taranaki, New Zealand.
Hello.
Daddy, I love him!
Mother thanks you.
Right, Mr. DeMille, I'm ready for my close-up.
Hello and welcome to the It's a Drama podcast. I'm Liz and today I'm super excited because I have got a New Zealand guest. I've trapped her. She's my hairdresser, and yesterday I went to have my haircut and I trapped her and said, please, can you come on my podcast? So I just want to say, I'm just going to say who she is and then I'm going to hand you over to her. We are talking to Jen Revell. She is the most gorgeous girl that's been cutting my hair for 10 years in New Zealand. And I love her, and she went traveling around the world. She traveled to England. And when she came back, me and her have had the best conversations about life in New Zealand compared to life in the UK. And we thought it would be super cool just to get together and have a chat about what Jen thinks of the UK and just living in New Zealand and just have a chat. So, hi, Jen.
Hi, Liz. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming. Thank you. So, I know. Would you just mind saying, just introduce yourself and who you are and how old you are, where you live and...
Yeah, so I am from New Zealand, as we've spoken. I'm originally from Taranaki here. I've always lived here. My parents are farmers. And yeah.
How old are you?
I'm 27.
Do you know what? Yesterday when we were talking and you were like, I'm 27. And I said, so how old's your mum then, Jen? And you were like, oh, she's nearly 50. And I was like, oh no, that means I'm old enough to be your mum. And here's me, I just always thought we were like, oh yeah, just friends. Yeah, I know we're friends, but yeah, I've got to say, you're not like a 27-year-old. Is that how old you are?
Yeah, I'm 27. And I've always been told that from a young age.
You're very mature and you've got I don't know, I don't want to go I don't mean like we can, I don't know how to say it. It's just like not talking to a 27-year-old, I think. I've always thought that, you were like 50. No, not really.
But it's so true. I've always, from the age of 18, I've always got Christmas cards or my birthday cards saying happy 60th. Or I've always hung out with older people. I've never really... I do have a lot of friends my age, but they all seem very similar to me. And that's how the conversation came up.
Yes.
Yesterday.
Yeah. And I must say as well, I'm going to put your photo because you look about 13. You're just so beautiful and you've got such beautiful skin. I always look at you and you're like, you've got this porcelain skin, this beautiful eyes, and your hair is, at the moment she's sitting here, she's got pinky blonde hair. She's just absolutely beautiful. And what happened is I went in for my haircut yesterday and we talked about some stuff and we got talking about
Sunny.
Sunny, yeah. So for those of you who are not regular listeners, Sunny is my 19-year-old, soon to be 20, son, and he is about to move out, right? So this is where the difference between New Zealand living and the UK living was really apparent to me yesterday when I spoke to you about this.
Yes.
Because I said to you, I probably had big blubby eyes because I have been crying for about a month over this. He's moving down the road, Jen. It's a massive move for me. He's moving out. He's getting a flat with 2 mates, and he's moving 10 minutes down the road. But this to me is just it's and I'm not going to lie, it's really heartbreaking, So I came to you yesterday expecting a nice little bit of sympathy, oh Liz, poor you, your family, and you said to me. What did you say, Jen?
I said, well, it's about time. Is it what I said?
Yeah.
Or, that's old.
Yeah. Isn't that a bit old to be living at home, you said? And I'm like, yeah. And then we started talking and you said that in New Zealand, if you're still living at home at 18, it's a bit weird.
Those were the words I used. It's a bit harsh, yes. But, I have now realised I feel like our culture's changing a little bit, but definitely in my age group, if you're living home after 18, you've finished school and you're still at home, and you don't have any aspirations to leave home, it's weird. Like,
it is a bit. But all right then, but what about, actually, before we get into this conversation, because I know I'm going to dive deep into this conversation with you, can you just tell me, so you grew up on a farm?
Mm-hmm.
All your life you've been on a farm? So your mum and dad were farmers?
On and off. My parents were farmers. So from the age of 7, I've been on a farm.
What sort of farm is it?
My parents are dairy farmers.
Right, okay. So they worked full-time?
They work full-time. I have 3 brothers.
Yeah.
I have 1 older and 2 younger. And my responsibilities were I cooked and cleaned. I helped my brothers with their homework. And it's kind of like the old school bring up, really, being on a farm. And I learnt to drive at the age of 7.
7, really?
Yep. As soon as we're on the farm, I was driving from the house to the cow shed, which was maybe 102 meters worth of road. So, I had to learn to, change gears. I couldn't really see. I had pillows to be able to drive, to be able to help my parents out when they needed me on the farm.
Right.
So,
do you know what? I'm so embarrassed now, because what did I say to you when I left the hairdressers yesterday? I'm like, Jen, would you come and do the podcast? If you don't drive, I can come and pick you up. And you're like, I drive. Oh yeah, I've been driving since the age of 7, Liz. Thank you. Oh, how embarrassing. Oh, wow.
So yeah, I feel, for myself, my experiences are different, but also very similar to everyone else in New Zealand. So I was telling someone the other day about my first pet when I was 3. So I had a pony and I had a kitten. These were my responsibilities. Like, I'm not joking.
Yeah.
So I really wanted these when I got these. My parents wouldn't do anything for them. So I had to feed them every single day. And if I didn't feed them, they wouldn't. And I'd know about it.
Yeah.
So it's interesting when I hear people say they're going to get whole nother conversation, pets for their children.
Yeah.
And then they say they're looking after it. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That would never happen for me.
No. And I think this leads on as well to what we were talking about yesterday, about the whole, I feel like New Zealanders are just more, I don't know what the word, I don't know if it's like savvy, or I don't know, like just more grown, just more independent.
I think independence is the right word. And yeah, we definitely are a little more, compared to when I was in England and noticing people still at home around the age of 27, the age I am, and they've never left home. I was horrified.
Okay, look, I'm jumping ahead. So you're living on this farm, you're 7, driving your tractor around the field with your brother and your pony in the trailer, and you're just, you're going to school in New Plymouth. Is that right?
So I originally went to Okado.
Oh,
Primary.
did you? Yeah, that's where my mum lives.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then it changed to Coastal Taranaki School.
Right.
And then my parents moved to Leperton.
Yeah.
And then I went to Inglewood High School.
Right. Okay. So Inglewood is a small town, isn't it? Just outside New Plymouth. It's nice, Inglewood. I like Inglewood. It's nice. They've got all those fairy lights, haven't they, hanging in the trees?
Oh, they do. They
things.
do
I
get quite
it.
excited for seasons.
Yeah.
Miracano, it's really cool to drive around there around this time.
Don't you think Inglewood looks a little bit like European? I don't know what it is. They're trees and they've got that train track. And,
They do.
Yeah,
Yes, I never thought of it, really.
Theatre, and I just like it. I really like Inglewood. So Inglewood, for those of you listening, is just like, 10 minutes, 15 minutes outside New Plymouth?
It's exactly 12 minutes and something. I remember timing it when I was...
What, on your tractor?
driving, into town, because that's what you got to
school.
do when you're 16. You're too excited to get to town.
Right,
So.
okay. So you're growing up on the farm, and then you get to be 16, and you decide to be a hairdresser, is that right?
Yeah, so I had lots of decisions to make, and I loved school. Don't get me wrong, I did enjoy it a lot. But the opportunity came about. We have this thing called Gateway, where, you know what Gateway is? Perfect. So,
But can you just explain it anyway?
so Gateway is a subject that you can do in school where a lot of people say you get the day off school and you work. So you in a career path that you may want to do. So I chose hairdressing. I did choose a couple other ones, decided last minute, no, hairdressing's where I want to be.
Right.
So I got this placement at my first salon, Key Lime Pie is what it was called back then, and it was in Maryland. And that's where I was 15 at the time when I first started working there,
Right.
And yeah, this is where I got offered an apprenticeship,
Right.
which is I decided to take up, but I wanted to make sure I was if I wanted to change career paths, I needed my NCA for uni.
Yep.
So I passed those, as I was telling you yesterday.
Yeah. So like as a backup,
As
so
a
in
backup,
case you wanted to go to
just
uni.
in case I wanted to change. And I started my apprenticeship at the age of 16. And where do you want me to carry on?
So then you were hairdressing at 16. You stayed in New Plymouth hairdressing, did you?
Yes. Yeah.
And then you got married quite early, didn't you?
Yeah. So I moved out of home at 17.
Right.
Me and my partner at the time, we bought our house at 18.
See, that is so young, I think. Anyway, we'll go back to that. Yeah, let's just do your story. Yep.
And then I'm qualified.
Yeah.
And then I got married at 21.
What did your partner do?
He's a roofer.
A roofer, right, okay.
Yeah.
So just hold that space a minute because we'll move on from there. But did your parents ever say to you, why don't you want to work on the farm?
No, not at all. I feel like it could be... No, they never actually asked that question.
That's interesting then, isn't it? So there was no pressure ever there.
I've got 3 brothers, I guess, Did
they take over the farm?
No, not at all.
Poor mum and dad. So they're still there now.
They're just share milking now. So
right.
It's, and they have 10 acres instead that they own of their own, which we all kind of want to build on.
Right.
They're not going to let any of us build on that land, but we would love it.
Yeah. Okay, so in your friend group, was it, because I know, again, we were talking about this yesterday, and I love this subject, trades, leaving school and getting a trade. So in your friend group, did everyone do that? Or did most of them go to university? Or because you say your husband was a tradie and...
Yeah, so there definitely is, if you're going to leave school, you have to have a trade. That's kind of, I don't know where this has come from, but that's what I hear from every parent in New Zealand. They say, if you don't like school, you need a trade or you're staying at school. So a lot of children was what you'd call them, but for me, they're young adults, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of these 16 to 18-year-olds would be finding career paths to go down, normally in the trade world.
Right.
Or they stay at school and then they go to uni. Yeah. So it's kind of the paths that we take. And
I think that's a brilliant path. I really do.
And I feel like for some of these, and I don't know if it's our culture and the way that a lot of our parents, or it's just how we all, or our grandparents maybe did a trade, and then their children would go to uni and then their children be in the trade. It's quite interesting. It's like a little pattern happening.
Right.
But yeah, it's, if you don't like school, you're going to get out and you're going to do a trade, or you're not, or you're staying at school. It's kind of like you choose.
Yeah. And that was like an unwritten rule sort of thing.
Yeah, it really is. And they talk about it. They talk about it at school, and they talk about it within my parents' friends group as well.
Right.
So
that's interesting. That's really interesting.
It is really interesting. So my older brother, he's a builder.
Yeah.
I believe he left school at 17 to become a builder. Mm. My brother underneath me, he did stay at school and he went off. He became a bricklayer. That's what he became. Right. He was a bricklayer, and then he went to Australia and worked in the mines, and now he's come back and he's a roofer. So yeah, he works with my partner.
But don't you find now, though, this is what I find, and we were talking about this yesterday, again, I don't know if this is a cultural thing, a UK and a New Zealand thing, and I don't want to go, the youth of today, but we were talking about this yesterday, weren't we?
We were.
And it's like, if you say to a kid now, or not a kid, like a 16, 17-year-old, we've said it to like Sunny, it's like, you should, because Brian's a plumber, so get a trade, and then you've always got it.
Yep.
Oh, no, we're not going to get a trade. We don't want to get a trade. Like, it's just like, I don't know. There just seems to be that, I get it, I know that there are lots of other things that they can be doing, but I don't know. I know so many people in New Zealand that are tradies, and I don't want to say that tradies are, how can I say this without sounding...
You can say this. Look down.
Yes. All right. Thank you, Brian. Yeah. In England, it is, isn't it? It is. In England, if you're a tradie, it's like you look down upon. I'm sorry, but you are. And I know this because Brian is a plumber, and you can verify that, can't you, Brian? You come over here to New Zealand, and you're a plumber, and it's like, well, yeah. Oh, you're a tradie, mate, are you? Oh, yeah. And it's normal. It's just like, isn't it, Brian? Am I right?
It's accepted.
It's accepted.
I feel it's quite interesting you bring this. another subject, but in New Zealand, it's a life skill. You have to have something to help other people out. So we give and take a lot here. Do you find, like,
Yes.
I'm not sure if you've found, Brian, maybe people know you're a plumber. Maybe they'll ask you to do something and then you'll do something, or, you know, you share and give and take quite a lot.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I feel like I'm going to call it survival skills. Being a plumber isn't a survival skill, but it's incredible to have. And I love knowing a lot of tradies to be able to build my own home one day. Example, I was in England, we're in lockdown, and I want a vegetable patch, you know? Like, I've always grown up on a farm, I've always had a vegetable patch. And I have found a lot of people in England don't really know where their meat comes from and where the vegetables come from. They don't even know if it comes from under the ground or if it's in a vine or etc.
Yeah.
And here I am, I have begged my partner's parents if I can build a veggie, like dig a veggie patch. So they've given me this little section where I'm allowed to dig a garden. And here I am pulling out all these weeds in the garden, and I find that they actually have a drain that goes into a tub. And I was like, perfect, this is great for when I do my veggie patch. So first of all, his parents have never seen a woman have a shovel, first of all. So this is hilarious. Here I am, got the shovel, I'm digging. His parents are standing there watching me. They're just shocked, absolutely shocked over the fact that here I am. I'm a farm girl. I know, I've got my gumboots on, gumboots, wellies, you would call them. Yeah. And I'm sitting there digging my little veggie patch out. And then I turn on this hose from the tub and I'm making my own integration system, the water coming from one end to the other. And they're just like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Where is she from?
Yeah.
Like,
I bet they were thinking that. I bet they were thinking that. Brian, why don't you come and sit up here next to us, or do you have to stand down there? We didn't have Brian on the, well, for a start, we've only got 2 microphones, and we thought it might be a little bit. And also, I didn't want to make you feel as if, like, me and Brian were sitting here, like, firing questions at you. So that's why Brian has been pushed to the other side of the table, and he's not allowed over.
I'm a tradie.
We don't allow tradies at this end, thank you.
I love it.
So I'm not, I've got so much to talk to you about, but hold that a minute, because let me tell you now, there's only one sort of person that has a veggie patch in England. Brian. And that's what they call that program, Tom and Jerry or whatever they're called.
Yeah,
The Good Life.
The Good Life.
There was a program in the 1970s or 80s in England, and it was called The Good Life, about 70s, about people who had this allotmenty vegetable. Anyway, I'm only kidding, but it's in New Zealand. Yeah, they give up. Yeah, and they talked like that, and it was like, oh, Jerry, we could plant a lettuce, and it was like very, they just wore brown cords and, never shaved and, things like that.
This explains why they were just staring at me.
Yeah. And that was back in the 1970s. It was like, I'm generalising. I mean, people do, but not as much as New Zealand have veggie patches. Anyway, going back to your story. So you're 16, you're married. Oh, no, you're 18 now. You're married. You're both tradies. And then you're a traveller, aren't you? So
yes.
Tell me where you went travelling and how old you were.
So I was 21 when I got married.
Yes.
Bought our second home at, I think, 23. And then at 24, I decided to go travelling.
Right.
So.
And you separated from your husband?
Yes. So we separated when we were 24, 25.
Okay.
And then this is when I set off on my own journey.
Yes.
Which is quite exciting. So.
That's about when I met you, wasn't it? Just a bit before that, wasn't it? A couple of years before that.
Yeah. So. I think I met you when I was around 21.
Right.
When I was at BBO.
Oh,
yeah.
I can't believe that, Jen. Anyway, so go on. You wanted to go travelling, yep.
So I've always had this ambition, and this is why we decided to go, one of the reasons we went our own ways, because I've always wanted to travel. And so our lives were changing. And then where did I want to go? I've always, from the age of 7, I wanted to go to Italy for the fact that it's shaped like a shoe. Believe it or not. This is the only reason I want to go to Italy, and it's been on the top of my list. So I was like, I'm going to go to Italy one day. So off I go. I go off to England. That's where I met my current partner.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went off to Scotland.
With him?
No, I went and see my friend Jackie with the yellow hair.
Oh,
that I
yeah,
work
Jackie with the yellow hair,
Yeah,
yeah.
so I stayed with her in Scotland, and then I travelled England back with my partner. Then we went to Italy, and then he went off to Canada. And then I travelled Italy, carried on, met up with my yellow hair friend Jackie again. And then I went to Switzerland, Germany, and then moved to Canada for a year.
Wow, you did a lot.
And then I went to Spain and taught English au pair kind of scenario for these 2 children. Then I went to Greece. Well, I went back to England, did a wedding, went to Greece, and then back to Canada and moved to England for 8 months.
Right. And all this time, by the way, if you can hear that sloppy noise, that's because my dog has just gone up and had the biggest drink out of her water bowl. But all this time you were working, or you'd saved enough money not to work?
Bit of both. So I was working, I travelled Europe without working. And then when I went to Canada, I started hairdressing again in Vancouver. And then I moved back to England and I hairdressed for, 2 months, and then lockdown for 6.
Right.
And then...
So this was 2019, and 2020 now, wasn't it?
Yep.
2020.
2020. And then tried to get home and finally made it.
So when you're in England in lockdown, first of all, what does your current partner do for a job? What does he do?
He is a graphics designer.
Graphics designer.
And
Okay. No tradie skills there then.
No trading.
No.
I
Pencil
tried to
pusher.
convince him. I was like, you should really become an electrician. I feel like it'd be really good.
I think so. And then he'd know how to dig a garden patch, wouldn't he?
I know.
Put your lights in the garden patch. And then in lockdown, you were living with your partner and his family, and you told me how lovely they were, and you got to know about the English culture, didn't you? Because
I
you're
loved
living
it.
them.
Yeah, they were so beautiful and so welcoming. And it's interesting. I don't know if I can say this.
Yeah,
but
go on, you can say
when you
it.
go traveling, a lot of people are like, oh, watch out, the English can be quite mean. No, you guys are lovely. But
Well, we are to your face, but then when you leave, we're just like, oh, I can't believe that, Jen. No, so what? Oh, you've got the impression that English people aren't very nice.
I didn't get the impression. Everyone was telling me, because I was like, I'm moving
What,
to England.
Kiwis or
Was it
just other
Kiwis?
travellers or
Just other travellers.
Were they?
It's quite...
Yeah, Brian's got a bit of beef with Australia at the moment.
Oh dear, oh dear, I love it.
So sorry, yeah, go on. So they said,
So it's a worry. They're like, oh, Jen, you're just too lovely. They're not going to be as welcoming as you know. So that's why I moved to Canada first, because I was so worried about being, I don't know, broken down.
is that the honest truth? You're not
That's
joking.
I'm not lying. That's what you get told.
Oh, Jen.
But no, I loved every single moment of being in England, and I wish I could go back.
Really?
In a heartbeat. I love it there.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'd live there for long term, but I definitely want to go back.
Right.
Like, my plan was to be there for another 5 years maybe, but...
So your current situation, and so that will wrap up your story for that moment, and then we can talk about the differences between the UK and New Zealand. But your current situation is you're having a very long distance relationship, and you're waiting for lockdown to end so you can decide whether you can go back to England or your partner can come here. I know you talked about that, didn't you?
Yeah, so that's kind of where
So
we're
you're
at.
in limbo at the moment?
We're in limbo, trying to,
Yeah.
Has he been over here?
Yes, he loves it. He lived here for 2 years, so I did briefly meet him. He lived with my yellow hair friend, Jackie.
Okay. She's playing a big part, that old yellow friend.
So they used to live together, and that's how I met him. He lived in New Plymouth for 6 months.
Mm.
But it's funny, his what would you say, outlook on New Zealand is he doesn't want to move to New Plymouth. He feels like New Zealand's so beautiful, and he'd like to be anywhere but New Plymouth.
Why? What do you mean?
I can't really explain it. He can't explain it himself. He just said, oh, Jen, there's so many better places to live than New Plymouth.
Oh,
I know.
Hang on. Hang on. Pencil pusher and saying he doesn't like New Plymouth. Has he been to Inglewood? So do you think he's more like, this is so interesting because I get it, don't get me wrong. He's from Bristol. You lived in Bristol, and Bristol is a brilliant, vibrant, welcoming city. I love Bristol. So do you think it's because he's come over here and there's not much to do? How old is he, Jen?
He's 30.
Right.
Can I just stop you there, though? I mean, Bristol's not the prettiest of cities. It's it's not.
Oh, the food's fantastic
Yeah.
though.
It is, but
And it's very
Be quiet, Brian. Be quiet.
there's loads of places in
No, Bristol is pretty. You can't say Bristol isn't pretty. Get lost. No, Brian. Yeah, not the modern part, but like all the cobblestones and the centre.
It's got so much history.
Clifton,
Yeah.
the history. Well, you be careful.
Ooh.
You be careful. Anyway, you're not in this. So, this mine and Jen's. So yeah, maybe he just thought there's
He
not
loves
enough
the
going on.
South Island. He just adores the South Island. I said I'm not moving to the South Island. It costs more to fly from the South Island to the North Island than it is to fly to Australia. I was live in Australia. It's easier to get home. So not.
Do you think he
moving.
wants to live there because of the scenery, or that's what I mean? Is it because
he loves the mountains? He loves the scenery. We have a mountain.
I know.
Driving up your road today, actually. Oh, how beautiful is that background when you're just driving up your road and it's a beautiful day today as well, though, right?
Yeah, it is.
But you've got the whole mountain. It's breathtaking.
Jen, can I ask you this? Because it's just struck a chord now. And what's your partner called?
Michael.
Sorry, Michael. Sorry for calling you pencil pusher and everything, but I sort of get what he means, because when we came to New Plymouth, people said to us when we were moving over here, we're doing loads of research. Brian got a job as a plumber, and he phoned up the lady who was working on reception, and he said, what's New Plymouth like? And she said, oh, you wait till you get here. It's gorgeous. We've got a coastal walkway. We've got a mountain. We turned up. It was an September day or August day, wasn't it? It was the middle of winter. It was cloudy. It was miserable. And I remember thinking exactly that, actually. I thought, oh, no, really? Is this it? I don't like this. That's the honest truth, hand on heart. Okay, and then after being here for about maybe 2 months, 3 months, I just started to fall in love with the place. And now I adore it, absolutely adore it. Do you think, and I think this about New Zealand as well, as a whole, maybe you can compare this to how you felt when you arrived in the UK. England is sort of like you go and you're landed with all this ta-da, oh, look at our castles and look at our beautiful hedgerows and look at our lovely thatched cottages and our little windy lanes and our pubs and everything like that. And it's like, wow, this is it. This is amazing. And then you're there and it's like, okay, but I don't know. There's just now what though? I don't know if I'm saying that right, but New Zealand, I feel as if it's like the opposite of that. And I've always felt like this. It's like New Zealand is so understated. Maybe not the South Island, because the South Island is stunning, where it's like, oh my God, it's jaw-dropping, isn't it? But like places like New Plymouth, where at first you just have to be here and get into it and live it, and then the beauty starts, just gets into your skin. That's how I feel.
I feel like that too. Moving back, it's been quite interesting, you could say. It's small. It's very small. And I kind of understand where he's coming from. But there's something about it, like when you live in it and you enjoy it, you've got the ocean.
Yeah.
Like I go swimming a lot. I love the beach. And then I go hiking in the weekends because we've got the mountain there and all the different walks you can do. Mm-hmm. And then the black sand, like I never realized how cool that was.
Yeah.
I still always see these photos of beautiful white sand and the blue water. It's like, oh my gosh, our beach is so lame.
yeah.
It is. It's beautiful, and there's nothing. Well, coming back and realizing when you're hopping over the sand how hot it is, and you forget like there's something us locals have after a while. Like my feet are slowly getting stronger, but you watch people and they walk over it and it's like iron feet. They don't even feel it. As when you first get here, it's like trying to get over it. It's amazing.
But it's so true. It's just, it is. It's like that. You want to say?
Not just the way that sun sparkles.
Yeah, it sparkles.
But in the dark sand, it just
it glistens on a beautiful day. And it's
okay,
breathtaking.
so I'm pouring myself some tea because Jen brought over some English tea. You're okay for tea? You're right, Bryce?
Yes, thank you.
And the other thing I just want to point out as well is, and this is a huge difference between New Zealanders and people of my age anyway, in the UK. I know my grandma would say that I was talking rubbish. You have come to our house laden with gifts, and that is not abnormal for Kiwis.
No, I feel it's either you buy something or you make something. Like quite often we make things for each other. But I loved that I guess because my next door neighbours in England, they were elderly. Oh my gosh, in lockdown every day we got baked goods. And if it wasn't for them, I don't think I could have made it through. I was so homesick every day, not being able to get home, right? And they just made it feel so much more welcoming because I got all this baked goods, and that's what it's like here. Like I feel the younger generation still does that. Like
Do they?
I went around to my friend's house for dinner last week, and I got given homemade plum jam, biscuits. What else?
Yeah, see, I love that.
And bread to take home
That's
with me.
lovely. It's brilliant.
Like
And
how cool is that?
it is cool, but do you know that that's not normal? As in,
Well-
compared to, how did you feel when you went to England and you went round to someone's house, and you'd be lucky if someone bought you a packet of Rich Tea biscuits?
Well, luckily, I was in lockdown the whole time, so I didn't get to see anyone.
Oh, okay. Because I'm telling you now, if you go round to someone's house in England, you don't turn up with like you've done here. You've brought me bliss balls, you've brought cheesecake, you've brought a packet of shortbread, and you made that as well, the bliss balls, and it's lovely, by the way. I've just had a piece. But that is just, that's just what Kiwis do, you know. It's just what New Zealanders do.
Yeah, feels a bit more human.
It does, and it reminds me of when I used to, like my grandma, like I say, she's not alive now, but, you know, growing up in Lancashire, and that's what they would do. They'd pop around and there's a meat pie I've made you there, like, you know, and they'd bring it round. But we seem to have lost that in England, and we don't do that anymore.
I do feel like that is lost in England, because I would always bring up, I love being home for the fact the generation thing, I don't know if we're jumping ahead, but because I've got my parents here,
Yeah.
and then I have my grandparents here, and I still have my one great-grandma. And whenever I love hanging out with my nana and granddad, like I go there weekly, I love it, and I go to their vegetable garden and they pick out whatever I want for the week. And then, you know, they'll be
that's so
devastated if I was
nice.
buying all these vegetables at the supermarket, knowing that they have them all there. So I go there and I get the vegetables, and if I have any questions about in my garden, I got my granddad to come over the other day, and I said, I don't know what this plant is. Do I pull it out, or is it a good plant? You know, so, and then he's checking all out and he's helping me prune back things. And I feel because they are retired, they have the time, they enjoy hanging out with us all. And it's interesting I didn't realize how lucky I was until I went traveling and coming back and knowing that I have my grandparents still here, and the things we do together, and we learn, like, don't get me wrong, my nana and granddad don't bake at all, but my great-grandma, every time I went around there, she would be baking me things, and I think I've got that from her, having always, you don't want to go somewhere empty-handed. You always want to bring something with you to people, and then, or giving, if you come over to my house, I'd like to give you something to go home with, you know, leftovers of whatever it might be.
See, that is a huge, huge cultural difference between our countries then, isn't it, Bri?
Yeah, it is.
That is a huge cultural difference because, I
And the
mean,
same
you
thing-
might, you know, stick a toilet roll in your bag when you went to the, you know, if you were short or whatever, but you wouldn't expect someone to give you something when you left. No way.
And
No.
when it comes to waste, when I was in England, I used everything. Like, if there was leftover food from dinner, and I don't know if this is because I was brought up on a farm, like this isn't as normal maybe in New Zealand, but definitely, I don't know, I feel like this could be depending, but my upbringing, when we had leftovers, we'd eat it the next day, right? And when I was in England, we'd have amazing roast dinners, and then the next day, you know, I don't know if you guys have ever done it, but the roast potatoes, the next day you fry them up. It's amazing to have with your sausages and eggs. You know, so you'd have a roast on a Sunday, and then Monday morning you'd have the best breakfast before you go to work. That's what we tend to do. And when I was in England, I remember Mike's parents just being shocked with, like, if I didn't use the whole broccoli, I'd freeze it. I'd blanch it and put it in the freezer for when I want to make something next time. You know, they'll just normally throw it out because they don't need all the broccoli or the cauliflower or whatever it might be. And I'd be sitting there weighing my celery because I don't just want to buy one celery stick. I might as well buy the whole lot because this is what I've been brought up with. And normally they'll just buy their one celery stick for the soup, but I'd buy a whole bunch. I'd use my one celery stick and then I'd cut the rest up, weigh it, and put it in the freezer for my next soup that I want to make. And if you look at my freezer now, that's still what I've got happening at the moment, and it's quite funny. because that's apparently not normal over there.
No, I bet Mike's mum waited for you to go to bed and then said, "Have you seen how much space she's taken in that freezer? A
They
bloody
bought a
celery in the
freezer
freezer."
for me.
No wonder.
They were horrified.
Oh, no, that is so interesting. Yeah, and I love that. I absolutely love. I just want to come and live with your parents. That just sounds like the ideal upbringing, doesn't it, Bri?
Yeah, but it's very
Oh,
hard.
it sounds
That's
lovely.
that's what everybody's trying to get back to.
I know.
That's the other thing,
And this is the thing, isn't it?
Sustainability.
That I think, yeah, that's why I love that. Yeah, it is. They've got old-fashioned values, and I know people go, "Oh no, they haven't." No, we haven't, and you haven't met all Kiwis. But it's just, I don't know. I love those values of like exactly what you've just described. And also what we were talking about yesterday about kids.
Yeah, and I feel like because we have our culture, we get married younger. Not always get married. Sometimes we do have children before we get married, quite often as well. So we have ourselves, we're having, say, my generations had my children, but then they still get to learn not just off me, but off my mum, their grandma, and also their great-grandma. And then instance for my cousin, great-great-grandma. So it's pretty amazing because you're not just learning from one person, you're learning from multiple. And I only just realised the other day when Christmas time was around, her parents are still too young they're still working, so they can't look after her son. So she dropped them off at my nana and granddad's house because that's what she used to get dropped off there. So she went off and did her Christmas shopping, and her children were hanging out for nana and granddad. And here they are learning how to garden for the day.
Yeah.
Compared to after school programs or whatever there might be out there. Like, we don't use technology as much. We do. Don't get me wrong, we have a lot of technology, but getting outdoors is very common for our younger ones.
Yeah, definitely.
And older ones as well.
Yeah.
But it's so true. Yeah.
Do you think here's a big difference that I know, and we just touched on it before, and you'll notice this because you went traveling. But I feel, and like I said, we touched on it before, but I think that a big difference between New Zealand and the UK is you seem so much more. I know I said the word savvy and independent, but it's independent, and that comes from. I noticed that right from when I took my kids. Tess was 5 when I first brought her here, and she spent 2 years in school before I homeschooled her. And I just noticed, like, the little kids just walk into school on their own. They'd put their own shoes and socks on. They'd take themselves to the loo. It just seemed like you were just. I'm saying you because, like, Kiwi, New Zealand children, they just seemed more advanced. No, just more independent. That's all it is, isn't it? They didn't.
I think it's more independence, and I feel with this new generation coming through, it is quite scary because talking to some people with their children now, they're either bubble wrapping them and trying to do everything for them, and then, or it's easier. It's so much easier. Like, I was talking to one client the other day, and she said, "Oh, it's so painful, but here I am letting my 4-year-old butter his own bread and put peanut butter on it, and he's getting holes in it. There's peanut butter everywhere." She's like, "I just have to walk away. I just have to let him do his thing and come back and clean up the mess later." But that way it's giving him his own independence.
Of course it is. Yeah.
Another client said, "Oh, I just can't stand watching. I just have to take over. It's just no point." He starts screaming, getting really upset over the fact that he can't do it. So she just does it for him.
Yeah.
And she's like, "But how do you stop that? Where do you realize?" That's a whole other conversation again, isn't it? But it's interesting listening to it as a stylist, these two different parents trying to figure out which way is the better way. One's trying to look after their child and put it in bubble wrap, and then the other one's just like, defend for yourself kind of scenario. But they're both good.
Yeah.
And some people may see one parenting skill's bad and the other one's good, but we don't really judge here either. It's kind of, we let you know when you're doing something wrong, but.
See, that's a big cultural difference, isn't it? Because New Zealanders do. I talked about this. I don't know if you heard our last podcast, but I talked about a woman who came into Foursquare and basically had a go at this young girl for leaving her baby in the car. And, I said, it was just like, I was gobsmacked because she was like, get that baby in, and that baby shouldn't be in the car. And the girl just went out to the car and got her. Now, if that had been in England, and I'm sorry, I'm repeating myself because this was in last week's podcast, but she probably would have just said, "Oh, F off, mind your own business." She really would. It would have
And
just
I've
been...
seen that in England. It's
Yeah.
terrifying. People, you can't have your own opinion there. But then it's it's wrong again. But I do see people get quite angry if you have your own opinion, say, for instance, if in that scenario. But here, she was in the wrong. She's not meant to leave her child in the car. Everyone knows the rules. And so she just went out and got it.
Yeah.
And then everyone just carries on as normal. Like, no one makes a big fuss out of it, right?
Yeah.
It's quite,
Yeah.
okay, cool. Carry on.
Yeah.
Like, life carries on.
I'll tell you won't do that again in a hurry.
Yeah, you won't. Yeah. I won't be shopping at that Foursquare again, that's for sure. Yeah, no, it is. It's so true. And as a parent, I just got to say, you know, as much as so I'm 50, my kids are 20 and 16, and 19 and 16. As much as I love the New Zealand values. That's how I was brought up, like not on a farm, obviously, but we were the same. It was like, get out and play and don't come back till it's dark. And when you come back, make sure you know, me and Brian were having this conversation this morning, actually, weren't we, Brian, about how I still make Tessa's dinner for her sometimes, you know? And I'm like, she's 16. Why am I stood here making, you know, her dinner? Why isn't she up here making it herself? And she's capable, and she would, but I'm doing it for her. And I think, why am I doing that? Because I know that I'm not doing her any favors by doing that. But in your mind, you think, oh yeah, but I just want to make it easy for her. I just want to make it nice. And it's as a parent, you're constantly battling that, what in your heart you know you should do, because I know that I would be doing her so much more of a favour if I just said, I'm off out now, you know, make your dinner, because that's going to make her a stronger, independent young girl, isn't it?
It does. But at the same time, you're like, I just adore having her at home. I want to keep
know,
making
Jen,
her dinner.
I know. And I do adore cooking for her. But hand on heart, I feel like I'm making that mistake of just like, you know, I don't know. I can see how easy it is to just go, oh, I'll just do it for her. Oh, it's easier if I just do it, you know, but it doesn't do them any favours. And I love the New Zealand way of like, you know, like Bri was saying this morning, like, you know, your kid falls over. That's what I couldn't believe as well. It's like a child would fall over in New Zealand and they'd be like, get up, you know, you're all right. Come on. Oh, well, if a kid falls over in England, well, in my circle of friends anyway, oh, it's like the world had ended, you know? Oh, darling, oh, let me brush it down. Oh, come on, mummy will kiss it better. No. You know, and it's like, oh, I don't know. Gets me down. It gets me down. It really does. It's just like, come on, get on with it, you know?
I think they've even invented, my little cousin had one, little rubber hats because...
Oh, don't, Jen, don't.
Because the children keep falling over and knocking themselves because we're very out and about, and there's these bikes that I've noticed a lot of children have now, the wooden bikes, and they push along.
Yeah.
And they go over jumps because why not? You know, you might as well have ramps and jumps for your 2-year-old.
Yeah.
It's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
And here they are, but they fall off and they hurt themselves. So now they've got, you know, your normal hat, the helmet, with these little rubber caps that go over as well.
Oh, God.
So it's like if you're going to fall down some stairs, it's not going to
Yeah.
have, you're not going to have stitches.
Oh, I don't know.
It stops them being more, you know, you fall over, you hurt yourself, you learn. And that's what's not happening because they don't hurt themselves.
And
covered in...
yeah,
bubble
I
wrap or
saw this. So if you're going to talk, then you need to come and sit near me because I'm worried that you're just going to sound like you're not talk. You know, it's going to like be really
something. But you're
quiet.
up to 45 minutes.
Yeah, I know, but
Oh.
see, look, and we've got we haven't even touched the surface, have we? Okay, I knew this was going to be an interesting conversation with you. I really did.
but we do need to bring up the fact, if we're talking about children, playgrounds at schools. I just realised in England, oh my God, where do I even start? Okay.
Go on.
There was this
Jen,
one
tell us.
moment I drove past, there was a park, right? This is like, it's not even a park. It was a tree with grass and a fence around it. And I was like, oh my God, how cool is that? Go have a picnic there or kick a ball around. And it said, no kids playing on this grass.
Keep out.
Keep out. It did. It said,
Did
and I was
it?
like,
Yeah.
what? Where are the kids meant to play?
Yeah.
You know, you're in Lego houses, I call them.
Yeah.
In England, they all look the same. And, excuse me. And, oh, where have I
You
gone?
need to take a drink. It's funny you should say that about Lego. Yeah, go on. We'll talk about houses in a minute. Have a sip of water. But it's funny how you should say Lego houses. I know this is a long podcast, but I know that you'll be listening to this and thinking, do not let that girl go because she's lovely.
You've
So
got
I
one
don't
of the
care.
best voices we've had on podcast. It sounds so good.
Oh, thank you. I'm always worried. You know when you because voice recordings now to send people. Everyone's doing that now. And I was like, oh, that's my voice.
Yeah.
It doesn't, when it plays back for you.
Yeah.
So thank you.
It'll make people want to move here listening to your voice.
Oh, you've got the most beautiful accent.
Thank you.
So go on. So you drove past this park. There's no kids allowed.
No kids allowed, keep off, I think it was what it said. And I was like, because I was a little excited, I was going to go back and buy a ball and kick the ball around. It's the first, like, green bit of grass I've seen. I was so excited. Not even I'm allowed to play on there. I'm horrified. And it's everywhere, I noticed. And then going past schools, it's like prisons. It's they're all gated in. And I come back here, I'm like, oh, there's no fences around our... I'm unsure of which one's better. Like, do we need fences?
No. We don't need fences. Definitely not.
I'm so worried. Do we need... Yeah.
No.
So we don't have fences around our schools. And then our playgrounds. Have you seen the playgrounds we have here? I still play on them.
Yeah.
They're amazing.
They're the
That
best.
That you feel like you can because it's a community school. Oh,
Yeah, it is like a community school. So you can go there and anyone can play on them. And they are really high and they have the bark, everything else. And you do have the fields to kick balls around and tennis courts and netball courts.
Yeah.
And walking past schools in England, I was like, there's concrete and they can play football on there. But they have minimal amount of playground space, but they have no fields. Really, maybe do you...
well, they do have fields. Yeah, they do. Some of the schools do have fields.
But if you're talking about, we're not talking about secondary
Brian's
schools.
joined us
You're
now.
mainly talking about like primary schools. You know,
Yeah,
for
primary,
the
yeah.
small schools, and they don't really have those big. Some of the country ones do, but the majority of the town ones, they don't have anything, do they?
But do you know what?
Just put it like that. It'll be fine.
No.
It'll get
No, stop it.
No.
Do you know what really took me back when I came here is, like I say, Sonny was 8 and Tess was 5. They were at school in England. They start school when they're 4. So he'd been at school for 4 years. So I've had 4 years' experience of school in England. And, you know, you went to pick your kid up from school. If you weren't there at 3 o'clock, then there was trouble because the teacher was at the school, at the door, and she wouldn't let them out until she could see you. And they were like, okay, Mrs. Decourt, oh yeah, okay, here's Sonny, like, you know, and they'd hand him over. And it was just normal. That's what it was like. Pretty much like, I don't want to say prison, but it's like, you know. And then we came to New Zealand, and I remember just like being out with a friend. Sonny was at primary school and Tess was at primary school, and being out with a friend, and it got to like 3:10, and we were supposed to be there for 3:15. And this friend just said, she was actually American, she'd moved to New Zealand, and she's like, oh, don't worry about it, you know, that they'll just play in the playground. And I'm like, yeah, but Tess is only 5. No, she'll be fine, you know. And honestly, I was having heart palpitations. I thought I had all these, it was just awful. And I got to the school, and it was just, they were there on the monkey bars, and it was so freeing. And that made my stress levels just, honestly, you know, it's just, yeah.
You used to pick them up at 9 o'clock at night.
Yeah, I did. I just stayed out all night then. I'll be there at 10.
It's amazing. And I feel it is changing. I sometimes feel like it is changing because people are getting more, you know, bubble wrapping their children. And it is, I noticed the playgrounds now have the squishy stuff. You don't fall onto the bark anymore.
Yeah.
It's quite nice to fall on, but that's not what I grew up on.
No, there's nothing like a grazed knee, is there?
Yeah, like you got to learn to fall so you know you can get back up and you don't want to fall again. It's like hopping on your horse, you know, it hurts, but you got to get back on and you do it multiple times. But yeah, it's interesting the culture that's changing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel what we were talking about before, a lot of people here, we do have you get married young, you have children young, and then we have the grandparents around to help and support us and carry on, which is quite fun. Very lucky, really.
Just one more question. I'll ask you a question. What do you think about the shopping culture difference between here?
The shopping
and the
culture, in meaning food-wise or fashion-wise?
Just what you do with your spare time.
Oh.
Do you...
What do I do?
Well, for instance, in England, Saturday, you're not going to be doing anything else apart from shopping.
Oh.
And that's it. It's just like, well, I'm generalising. I'm sorry to the people that don't do that. But wasn't it, Bri? It
But
was
then
like,
you were there at lockdown, weren't you? So you wouldn't
Yeah,
have seen that same.
I was there in lockdown, and then but people were still trying to shop in lockdown.
oh yeah,
Yeah, it's crazy. Like you should have seen
that's Britain's life is
like
shopping.
Primark. I
Yeah.
walked past there one day when the shops opened. I went for like 4 blocks down the road just to get in there.
Yeah,
How crazy is that? So it is people's lives to shop
it is
in England.
It is.
Compared to New Zealand, yeah, we shop, but we tend to be at the beach or gardening or it depends on if you're a townie,
Something or whatever.
Yeah.
what you're doing compared if you
Chopping your
were
celery up.
in Auckland, you would be shopping, I guess. But there is a lot of beaches there. But
Yeah.
in
yeah.
Taranaki, we don't really shop. We shop after work or
Yeah. It's one of the questions that keep coming up because, you know, I do I've got a guide thing on New Zealand, what's like to live in New Zealand. And a big question keeps coming up is like, you know, what are the shops like? What are the shops like? What are the shops? Do you know what's really, really scary? Right? Because we've been here like 12 years now. And I did a little video the other day and I said, I was talking about somewhere, I don't know, one of the small towns. And I said, and the shops are just brilliant. And then I thought afterwards, Liz.
oh no.
No. Because when you came in, no. What's happened? Because now I think, honestly, oh, the bloody
Farmers
shops
is
are brilliant here. But, you know, compared to somewhere like America or, you know, London, England, anywhere, Bristol.
Yeah, but you go to Cribs Causeway.
They're not,
in
are they?
England, you're just like, wow, it's just
Yeah.
huge, isn't it? That's a huge shopping mall.
Why would you want to? And I know, because we've done it. We used to do it. We used to spend every Saturday. We'd get up at 9 o'clock in the morning and we'd go to the shopping centre and we'd stay there all day and spend bloody £100 or whatever, wouldn't we?
£500,
Yeah, on the credit card. And it was just that, it was like a vicious circle. And then we were so like down and fed up that we owed all this money on the credit card that we'd go and buy ourselves a new CD player or, you know, a no. And it was just like new clothes. And, it was just, when we came to New Zealand,
What did you guys do?
what do we do?
What did you do when you come to New Zealand?
We went shopping on a Saturday, but everyone was closed at 3
Yeah,
o'clock.
we're
It
like,
was
Everything closes.
It does. It closes, doesn't it?
It does. It doesn't so much
Does
now, but it
no, I
did
think
then.
does it still, Jen? Does the shop still close
Yeah,
now?
so
I never go in anymore. I don't know.
So my experience when it comes to shopping, we have a weekend. So we don't ever shop, well, we don't shop in New Plymouth. So me and my friends, what we tend to do, all my hairdressing friends, I would always go to Australia or I would travel somewhere in the world every year so that I save up and I shop till I could drop. Like every time I went away. So I always went to Australia, I went to Japan. And when I did these, I would shop until I dropped. And the whole trip was, where can I shop? Where can I eat? That was my holidays. So in New Zealand, we tend to have weekends where we go away. We don't really shop in our own hometown. It's quite rare. Like you don't really do that unless you need
That is interesting.
essentials, you know, like a singlet or a quick dress for a night out. But generally, I feel like if you ask anyone, we all have plans
Planned trips.
Yeah, there we are. Thank you.
Yeah.
For the year. So I'll be going to Auckland again soon. I've already done it in November and I'll go again. And it's kind of like I will shop for the season. And I find a whole lot of things.
That is a good idea.
So it's normally Melbourne. Oh my gosh, I love going to Melbourne
I'd love
for
to go
shopping.
there.
That's the best.
Is it?
It's my life. Currently can't do that, but as soon as those borders open, I'm shopping in Melbourne. That's where I'm going. But quite often we go to the Gold Coast. You can have a summer holiday and shop. But that's what we do.
How much would it cost you to go from New Plymouth to Melbourne on a shopping trip? So say if you're going to go away do you go away for a week or a weekend or what?
Sometimes like 4 days.
So how much would that cost, do you think, roughly?
So the flights are there and back, maybe around $300 to $500, depending on your flight.
New Zealand, yeah.
New Zealand dollars.
Yeah.
And then, oh my gosh, I'd always save $2,000 to $5,000 to go shopping and eating.
Right.
But that's a bit dramatic.
Well, say $2,000 then. $2,000 for a 4-day break. But to be honest, like we just said, you can spend $100, $200, $300 on a Saturday, can't you? Going out and just buying things that you don't want.
We just said exactly that. We would go and spend over $1,000 at a weekend, and that's most of your wages have gone.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just like, oh.
Do you know what? I absolutely love that because what you've just described gives you the best of, when you live in New Zealand, gives you the best of both worlds because you spend your weekends doing really lovely stuff like tramping and swimming, and like you just said, you know, doing whatever, your mountains or your sports. And then you have that set time. I love that.
It's a great idea.
What a brilliant idea is that?
And we tend to hang out with our
but...
you get to see the country, and generally weekends we hang out with our family. Like I'm not sure you go to the beach with your family, tend to have picnics there. I'm not sure if you've noticed it, but quite often when you go to the park, you'd meet up at lunch or dinner at some point in the weekend with your family.
Is that just you, or is that like a New
like
Zealand thing?
Most New Zealanders do that.
Do they?
Yeah.
Well, that's...
It's true, because you do see a lot of New Zealand. You'll go to Federal Cafe on a Sunday morning and you see big families sitting together, don't you?
Well, why don't we do that in England then? I mean, I'm close to my mum. We see her a lot, but I wouldn't say, oh, I'll see you on Saturday and go to the park. Why do you think that is? Maybe because we're spread apart, or...
Yeah, our family's quite fragmented.
Yeah.
No.
In England, you sort of make a trip to see. I'm sorry. I'm you know, like my auntie. She's with her daughter constantly. So I am generalising, but it seemed to be that people make a trip to see the family. Like you'd see them maybe, you know, at Christmas or once, you know, or I'll be over in a couple of weeks or something like that. It wasn't. Oh, I don't know. It just we seem to.
That's
just us.
From the family,
that's why.
Yeah, but like here.
But again, my friends didn't go, oh, I'm hanging out with my mum at the weekend, or I'm hanging out with my grandma at the weekend. They would never say that.
I find that exciting. I can't wait to go see my family. So I tend to definitely at least once a month, if not every weekend, or some point during the week, I will see my family and we'll have a catch up of hanging out, or it'd be something to do with food. Like the other day, I called up my dad and asked, can we go for a swim? After work. He was there in a heartbeat.
Oh.
So we went down to Fitzroy Beach and we had a swim, and then I was like, all right, I got to go. I got to carry on with whatever I needed to do. And we went our separate ways. He went to the pub, you know.
Perfect.
And that's what, you know, we caught up for a little bit and then we carry on with our life. And it's quite interesting because I don't think that's common overseas.
No, it isn't.
It's not.
It's no way is that common overseas.
Well, so yeah, when it comes to our weekends, shopping isn't a priority. We do sometimes. So the younger, I always find when you go to, Centre City in New Plymouth, you always see a group of teenagers hanging out because that's what they tend to do.
Yeah.
The weekends, they tend to shop. But as soon as you hit after 16, you don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
You tend to go to parties or you go drinking if your parents allowed you. And then that's, you know.
What about the drinking? Oh God, have we got to stop now?
We can always split this.
Maybe we should just have you back.
I'll come back.
Yeah, should we do a part 2? Because I've got so much more to talk to you about, and you're just such a lovely person to talk to, and anyone who is listening to this podcast is going to be thinking, I'm going to go and live with Jen.
Yeah. We're going to actually sell the house.
We are.
Live with you, Jen.
We're going to come and live with you, and you're going to have a little vegetable garden that you can make our dinner.
I'll do the podding and the irrigation this time.
Yeah.
Oh, this sounds wonderful. I love it.
I'll supply the freezer. But yeah, it's just because I want to talk about like the drinking culture and how you know and all that. But just to finish with what you've just said there about the family, you have made me feel, thank you for a start, because yesterday when I came to have my hair cut with you, you made me feel a million times better, and I said this to Brian this morning, about Sonny leaving, because I'm not exaggerating when I say that it's upsetting me that he's leaving. And when you said to me, oh, Liz, you know, it's about time sort of thing, that, you know, it's good, it's a good thing, like, you know. And now you've made me feel even better, because I think that you're a classic example of when your kids do move out, if you don't try and hold on to them and be like, you know, oh no, don't leave, they will come back to you, because look at you and your dad, and you love spending time with your family.
I love my family.
Yeah.
And I did actually say to you yesterday in the hair appointment, oh yeah, but just invite them around every Sunday
and I loved you saying that, Jen.
For a roast, because they love it.
Yeah.
Yes, and I, for example, even still now, I don't need to eat anything in my parents' pantry. I go there every single time and open the pantry and see what's in it. I don't eat anything out of the fridge or the pantry, but I have to check in there.
Yeah.
And that's what Sonny will start doing. And it will frustrate you. And yes, he will fill up his bag with some of your food every so often. But that's the thing, when they move out young, you want to still support them in a way, but you can't look after them the way you used to.
No.
And I feel like realizing now that must have been how we do it. So I left when I was 17. I still went home every weekend and they'd feed me and I would fill up my bag with some goodies and then I'll go back home to my flat. And it's quite interesting to think about it now.
And you're 27 and you've travelled and you still want to hang out with your family, and that is really, really inspirational to me, because that's what I want my family to be like. I want my family to always want to spend time with us and hang out and have meals. And you are just honestly, I'm not just saying it, you've really made me feel 100% better about the whole thing that's going to happen with Sunny moving out and Tessa. And I just think just the New Zealand, that culture of you go traveling, you go and do your OE and, overseas, is it overseas experience? Is that what it stands for?
Your OE is what we call it. Yeah.
What does that stand for?
Overseas experience. Yeah.
And you go and do that and you travel the world and then you come back to New Zealand and you're back in this lovely
and bring these great ideas back from around the world and implement them over here. Yeah. New Zealand's changed so much in even 12 years that we've been here. Yeah. And you think, you can't get that here. Well, you can now. Yeah.
Exactly.
Someone's gone over there and thought, that's a good idea. So it's great.
I just love that. And it's just making, my brain is ticking and it's just, and thinking, just, yeah.
You can say one thing in Sunny's defence, Liz, but he did say that when he said, can I still come back on Sundays and have pancakes?
Oh, yeah.
Can I come and have pizza and movie nights? And it was just like, well, why are you going?
Yeah. That's no, but this is it. When you want them to move, you need them to grow. It's the independence. It's the same with letting your daughter make her dinner. It's about, he needs to move out to expand himself and he's going to grow so much. Like, he's going to come back to you and he needs to be able to feel he can come back if anything goes wrong. Yeah. So you can say, you can leave, but the door's always open. Yeah. And my parents still say, if you ever need to come home, there's a bed. We'll make a bed if you need one,
That's right, yeah.
So it's about being open and having, sometimes they don't want to see you. He's going to go for a phase where he's not going to want to hang out with you, but you just have to be like, come around on Sunday, we'll have dinner. And food's normally the best way to the heart as well.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
It really is. So if you want him to open up, and you'll know if there's something wrong, you can talk to him because he won't be eating all his food straight away, or he'll want to communicate with you guys. Yeah. And I feel like that's the easiest way to feel like when he leaves, it doesn't mean he's leaving completely. He can always come back. And
how did you get such a wise head for a 27-year-old? That's what I want to know.
But you do find that with a lot of Kiwi people. They're always looking over things, and you see it. You're not there with your head down. It's like, oh yeah.
And you know what I think about New Zealand people as well is just they haven't. You're exceptional, but even I interviewed Laura, talked to Laura when she was built, and she was only young. She was about. But you are one of the people that I think, wow, she's got it. But the New Zealanders seem to just have focus, don't they? Yeah. I don't know. There's never that, like me, for instance. I'm like, just like all over the place. Like just, I don't know. It's just you just seem more just more. Oh, what's the word, Bri? Just more
real,
settled, more real, more not real, but just more just.
You're fake, obviously.
Yeah. I don't know. More grounded, maybe.
Yeah, it's just a roundness.
Roundness.
It's a roundness in your mind that just,
And we did used to see that anyway, I'm going on now, but I was going to say you did used to see that in the older generation. Like, maybe it's just there's too much going on in life. I don't know. That's a different conversation.
Yeah, life happens and you can't control it.
No.
And I feel you just have to take your wins and carry on, enjoy it, enjoy life while you can. And I feel like everyone in New Zealand feels that, like we're very lucky at the moment, but we've always felt we can do anything. We've got this we have nature. It's very spiritual here as well, I find. Quite interesting while traveling, realizing we talk about being grounded quite a lot. And I think it could just be, is it in our culture? Is it our nature? Is it just where we are? It's interesting.
It is, yeah. It is. I don't want you to go and live in Bristol. I want you to stay here forever. So, Jen, I'm definitely going to have you back because I know that people are going to absolutely love this episode. I've loved talking to you. I know you've got an Instagram page that people can, because I know people are going to want to follow you after this, like, you know, because they're going to be interested in you. And so where do you find you on Instagram?
So my Instagram, I've got two, but we'll just start with one. So Jennifer Jason Lee. Mm-hmm. So JENNIFER, Jason, JAZONLEE. Mm-hmm. And that's my Instagram page.
Okay.
And that's currently my hair one, but I do have a traveling one, but they're linked together, so it's easy to find me.
Yeah. Because, you just, I love you. I really do. Thanks so much for coming on. And like I say, if you are coming to New Zealand and you're thinking, I'm not going to get a decent haircut, because that's a big thing, isn't it?
It is a worry.
Yeah, especially if you're coming, or anyone, you always have your own hairdresser, don't you? And you're like, oh no, you know, like mine was Matt in Bath. I loved him. And it was like, I dreaded not having that person. And I just think you are just the best hairdresser in New Zealand. So I really do. I just think you're amazing. What I love about you when I come to have my haircut is you're like, I know what I'm going to do with you. For a start, you've got a fantastic memory, and you're like, oh, you know, how's that dog that you stroked the other day in the street, Liz? You know, it's just like you've got a brilliant memory. But you also just take you're just calm, and you know what to do, and you're not one of these people that go, so what do you think? Because if anyone else is like me, you just want your hairdresser to say, I think we should do this. I think this is going to really suit you. And you do that, and it's just lovely. So if you are listening to this and you need a decent haircut and a good haircut, please go down to Jen Revell at KN Collab. You're going to be packed now, Jen.
Thank you.
I'd love to have you back. I'd love to carry on the conversation because I feel like we've got so much more to talk about. But until then, thank you so, so much, Jen, for coming on. And I'll speak to you soon.
Yay. Thank you so much for having me, Liz. Thank you.
Bye, darling. Bye.
Bye.
Really good. Yeah, my chair now.
Oh, that was brilliant.
That was good.
Yeah.
Hello.
Daddy, I love him.
Mother thanks you.
All right, Mr. DeMille, I'm ready for my close-up.